Hi, I'm Jessica Napier, and this is my session called Healing in Health Class. So the first thing I'd like to do is introduce you to some significant people in my life. Of course, there's me on the left. I'll tell you about me in a minute, but these people here on the right are the most important people in my life. They are my parents, Ronald and Teresa, and you may think, wow, they were really young to have such a seasoned teacher as a daughter. That's true. They had me as teenagers. They were teen parents. My mom was 16 when she gave birth and my dad was 18. They were married before they got pregnant with me. I think they just wanted to escape their very large families, and they sought solace in each other. They both dropped out of high school. My mom went on to get her GED. My dad worked with the same company up until last August. He retired. You'll see in this picture, they're very much in love. They still are, probably more in love now than they have ever been. This is when we took my mother to the beach for her 50th birthday. They both climbed on a plane for the very first time. My dad vowed never to do it again. My mom fell in love with it that day. She loves to travel. But we took her to the beach and we found her the best banana split that we could find. She loves banana splits, and that's what we do for our mom when she turns 50. So that's them. They're still the most significant people in my life. None of this stuff on the left would be possible, not even remotely possible, if it weren't for them. So you see some of the accomplishments, and it happened very quickly over the past couple of years. I have taught health and PE to 6th through 9th graders for 18 years. I'm currently the Kentucky Shape Health VP-elect. I was the 2019 Kentucky Health Educator of the Year. And then in 2020, I was both the Shape Southern District and the Shape National Teacher of the Year. I say none of that to brag. Each one of those experiences were exponentially humbling to this day. But I do share those simply because I want you to be able to trust what I'm about to teach you. I want you to have some credibility to what I'm about to say, because I've worked extremely hard and did some interviews and research in the topic that I'm about to speak to you about. Okay, here is where I'm from. This is Lee County, Beattyville, Kentucky. We are located right here on the southeastern part of Kentucky. We live in mountains, rolling hills. There's lots of greenery in the summertime and in the springtime. It's a beautiful area. It's known for rock climbing and off-roading. We live near Napier Bridge State Resort Park and Red River Gorge. It's a beautiful area to live in. Here's our school, Lee County Middle High School. We house about 490 students in grades 6 through 12. Until about 3 years ago, we were two separate schools in the same building, but now we are actually converged to one school under one administration and under one roof. So about 80% of our student body are free and reduced lunch, which means that we do live in an area that is stricken by poverty, which is the sole reason I believe I became so important, or I became so involved and interested in in the topic that I'm about to speak to you with. I saw some of the things that my students came in with and had to deal with, and some things that we had to help them through, and skills that we had to teach them in order to overcome a lot of stuff. So anything that I can do to help my students feel safe, connected, and hopeful, I want to do. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, just a little bit. So before I discuss the meat of the presentation, so to speak, I want to establish some norms. Okay, first of all, please ask questions or make comments in the location that your state association has provided for you. Some of you, I will be back channeling for you when they air this video. So please, if you're in the position to communicate with me right now, please do so. Ask questions, make comments. I will respond if I've been lined up to back channel on that specific day. You'll see that I am looking up and down, okay? I have two screens going on. So one screen I'm looking at for reference, and then the other screen I'm looking at you. So you might see me look forward or up and down. a little bit, please just disregard that. That's just a technological hurdle that we have to now overcome with virtual presentations, but we'll get through it, and I hope you learn a lot. Another thing I've done is at the bottom of each slide, if there is a particular resource where I have gotten that information that I think will be helpful for you, I have linked it as the word resource. So you can click on that. I'll attach this PowerPoint to the video as well. Thirdly, anything that's marked with an asterisk signifies activities that are found on curiouslyhealthed.com. That is my site. And you can just click there. It'll take you to Curiously Health Ed. You'll see that there's a blog that I write every now and then. There's a place for curious parents, curious educators, and curious students. And of course, you would go to educators. And I will have linked here different activities on how to feel safe, how to feel connected, and how to feel hopeful. Okay, so this is this website's in the early stages. I'm doing it myself, so just be patient. But by the time this video airs on August 1st, I do believe is the first time it's going to be aired, there will be, all of those activities will be linked to Curiously Health Ed. Please assume positive intent. This is my first time presenting as Shiv American National Teacher of the Year. Anything I say or do is to help you as a health educator. I'm just like you. I am a teacher. You know, I'm not a professor or a research assistant or even a researcher. I do enjoy digging into topics and learning about it and sharing that information with other educators, especially if it's something that I've tried in my classroom. So that's what this is. So assume anything that I teach you about is for the betterment of yourself. Lastly, have fun. I know that's going to be hard with us not being able to interact, but I'll try my best to make it lively and fun and help you learn the best way I know how. So some learning targets, I only chose 2 for the day because I want to dive into them pretty specifically. I can explain how a trauma-informed mindset can help you become a more effective teacher. And I can demonstrate strategies that help my students feel safe, connected, and hopeful. I don't know if you read into the title, the fact that this presentation was going to be about a trauma-informed mindset. Some of you may have. There is going to be part of it because I think it's important that we discuss what a trauma-informed mindset is and what that means for our students. But the majority of the presentation will deal with number 2. It will talk about strategies that we can use in our health education classrooms to help our students feel safe, connected, and hopeful. So the agenda, first of all, I'll explain to you why I chose safe, connected, and hopeful as the descriptors that I'm going to teach you about today. Then we'll talk a little bit about trauma-informed mindset, and then we'll talk about the strategies, about how to help your students feel safe, connected, and hopeful. So why safe, connected, and hopeful, you ask? Well, all started with this resource that I found a few months ago. This resource is an article on teaching tolerance, and the author talks about how students can overcome trauma and how we can help them during this specific challenging time overcome the traumatic experiences they may or may not be, or they may be experiencing at home. So through a sense of safety, through feeling connected, and through feeling hopeful or empowered, students can begin to heal from some trauma that they have experienced or are currently experiencing. That's where the idea came from. I have just been thinking about those words ever since I read that article. I also wrote a blog for Andy Milne on Slow Chat Health about that specific article. And that really just got the ball rolling. So I've just been really interested in it and researching it ever since. Okay, what is this thing called a trauma-informed mindset? Well, the best definition that I could find is that it's an ongoing commitment to learning about trauma. So it's not specifically a set of strategies. It's not specifically a set of unit plans. It's just a commitment that we make as educators to learn about the trauma that are present in our classrooms or in the lives of our students, and how it impacts the students, staff, and families that we work with every day. So this mindset can be applied to every aspect of education. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So tell me more, you say. Okay, sounds good. A trauma-informed perspective asks not what is wrong with you, rather it asks what happened to you. Okay, so how many times have students come to into our rooms, done something not good, and we've said to them, what is wrong with you today? Okay, maybe we shouldn't be asking that question. Maybe we should be asking, hey, what happened to you to make you feel like you needed to do that? It's a better place to start. The trauma-informed mindset is a lens that we can kind of look through. We can look up on our practices, our methods, our strategies, even our policies, and say, hey, do we have students who are going through trauma who this may or may not work for? And we need to keep in mind those students who may be experiencing certain things that our practices, methods, strategies, and policies could be negatively affecting. If we don't ask those questions, what are they going through at home? I like this quote. A teacher, I read this in one of the resources there below, and a teacher said, I like to think of a trauma-informed mindset as a spotlight. So when you're watching a show, the spotlight is on the performer, and you can't really see what's going on in the background, right? But a trauma-informed mindset kind of turns that into a floodlight where it expands the spotlight, and you can now see everything that's going on stage. So it's kind of metaphorical in that you're no longer just going to look at what's going on with the child in that moment, but we're going to see what else is happening in the background. We're going to look at the child's home situation, their family life, so that we have a better understanding of what's going on. That's how I see a trauma-informed mindset. So why is a trauma-informed mindset needed, is our next question. Well, we do know that all students have been through a collective trauma with this pandemic. We do know that ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance abuse in adults. We also know that ACEs can affect a student's attention, ability to make decisions, capacity to learn, response to stress, and their ability to form healthy relationships based on research. The National Health Education Standards teaches skills to overcome those adverse effects of trauma. Okay, for example, look up there at that previous box. Student attention, ability to make decisions, capacity to learn, response to stress, ability to form healthy relationships. Each one of those is addressed in one or more of the skills in the National Health Education Standards. So we teach students about mental health, okay, about what affects their attention and how to focus more clearly, right? We teach students how to make healthy decisions. We teach students with their capacity to learn and how they learn. We teach students about their response to stress. And we teach students how to form healthy relationships. If we teach the skills that are in the National Health Education Standards, we are empowering students to overcome trauma, and we never even knew it. That's why I love health education, one of the reasons. And then based on research, of course, we know that efforts to promote a positive school climate and healthy human connection have been found to combat the effects of trauma as well. So that's a lot of information, but it is much needed to understand why a trauma-informed mindset is needed so much in health education. Okay, now we're going to do a short activity. And that just gets us thinking about our own trauma, unfortunately. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. For each one, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to think about that question. You don't have to answer it out loud. You don't have to answer it in the comments. Just think about the answer. What were some of the challenges you faced during childhood? What are some of the obstacles or tough times that you have supported friends or family through? What are some areas of personal and professional growth that you would like to focus on? And the last one, what stressors are you currently experiencing in your life? How many of those answers and experiences could be seen just by looking at you? None, right? And how many of them do your bosses know about? Maybe none, maybe some. What about your colleagues? How many of those things do they know about? Maybe some, maybe none. And your friends or family. How many of those 4 things do they know about? Maybe some, maybe none. So I wanted to do that activity to point out one thing. You can't always see trauma, just like I can't always see the stressors that are going on in the lives of the people I work with. My bosses don't see that. My friends and family don't see that. Sometimes it's hard for me to see even, and I haven't realized how much something is stressing me out or how a trauma has affected me. So we can't always see it. Even the trauma that we think we're seeing doesn't mean that we're understanding it accurately. But the good thing is that we don't have to. We don't have to understand it, and we don't have to see it accurately in order to help our students. You and I both know that our students go through things every day. They're under pressures that we don't even know about. They may have experienced an ACE early on that we don't know about. And we don't have to know about those things or even understand those things in order to help them. We do know that all students can benefit from a trauma-informed mindset. So even if we look upon all 25 to 30 kids or more in our class, and we say to ourselves, in our minds, I don't know how many of you have gone through trauma, but I know some of you have. And if we treated all of them as if they have been through trauma, and we use this trauma-informed mindset, it is not going to hurt the ones who have not been through a traumatic experience, but it is definitely going to help the ones who have. We know that based on research. Whew, take a deep breath. All right, physical activity break. Would you rather teach online this fall? Do a jumping jack or more, however many you want to do. Or would you rather teach in person this fall? Do some calf raises. Do 10 calf raises and do as many jumping jacks as you want. Okay, if you're like me, I want to teach in person. I don't know if that's going to happen. We don't know for sure yet here in Kentucky, but I would much rather teach in person because I miss my kiddos. Okay, would you rather play in the snow or go swimming? If you'd rather play in the snow, hold your best ski pose for 10 seconds. If you'd rather go swimming, practice your best stroke for 10 seconds. Ready? Go. Yeah, I'd much rather play in the snow. I love cold weather. Heat, not so much, but cold weather is my jam. Okay, whew. Short physical activity break. That's another activity you can do to kind of connect with your students as well, to learn more about them. It's pretty simple. I just downloaded some GIFs off of the internet and typed in a question and uploaded the GIF. It was pretty simple. All right, so how do then we help our students feel safe? And safe in terms of the belief that your needs and the needs of those around you, the ones that you care about, will be met and that you will be kept safe from harm. So how can we help our students feel like that when they walk into our classrooms? So the list that I'm about to discuss with you came from this awesome resource called Fostering Resilient Learners by Kristen Sowers and Pete Hall. It is a book that they wrote just a few years ago, and it discusses these things. First of all, we need to make sure that they feel like their physical environment is safe. So make sure our building is safe, make sure our classroom is safe. That's going to be challenging if we're going back to school in person here in a few weeks or in a month or so, and we're still dealing with the virus, which of course we will be. So at our school, we are going to make sure that students know how to wear their masks if they're closer than 6 feet apart in our state. We know we want them to know how to correctly social distance themselves in the hallway. And we want them to know where some hand hygiene stations are so they can clean their hands. We will have all of that posted and marked, and we will communicate that very effectively to our students, so that we're working on those plans right now, so that students will feel safe and secure, because they're going to come into us, and some of them might not even come to school. We don't know. But those who do come to school will want to know that we are doing the very best we can to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Okay, so we need to communicate that with students, and they need to see that happening. Other ideas about keeping the building and classroom safe are to lock the doors, outside doors especially, and students know that those the outer doors are locked. Staff need to be visible and wear identification. And they need to know, the students need to know that we have staff who can help them with any mental or emotional struggle that they might have. So I like to bring those people in, introduce the students to them so that they can connect the name with the face, explain to them where their office is located, so that they know where they can go if they need extra help that they're not getting at home, or they're not getting from me, or maybe it's something else that they just need to have help with. Staff, the second one, staff exhibit pro-social behavior, so adults should be good examples of kindness and respect. Clear behavioral expectations and procedures, so make sure that those are clearly communicated. I don't know about your school, but we are a PBIS school, so we have our matrices posted for our common areas. We have them posted in the classroom. We go over the rituals and routines with our students at the very beginning of school and after returning from any type of break, which I'm assuming that this year there's a possibility that we would have several more frequent breaks if we have to shut down and come back for any given time. So each time we come back, make sure that we go over those expectations very clearly. Behavioral expectations and procedures need to be consistently implemented school-wide. So make sure that our whole staff is on board with those policies and procedures and that we know how to implement those. And then with any discipline problem that we might have, use restorative practices. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. I'm familiar with it a little bit. And the premise of it is that you find the need behind the misbehavior and you meet that need. Or you teach a student a skill in which they can meet that need themselves. Sometimes it could be like a physical need, like maybe they're hungry, maybe they're thirsty. That's something we can help them with. We can meet that need for them when they're in our classroom. And that might help their behavior. Otherwise, it might be a little bit more complicated where it's a skill that we will need to teach them, maybe some anger management or time management if they're consistently late to our class. or anything like that would be considered a restorative practice. Routines are super important. When students know what to expect in class, especially a student who struggles a little bit with dealing with trauma, and they're not used, they don't know what's going to be around a corner when they walk in their house. It will be soothing and safe to them to feel like they know what to expect in class every day. So, maybe start class the same way, maybe in class the same way every day, so that they know what to do and they know how to ask for their needs to be met. Assigned seating, I was a bit surprised to see this one on there until I read about it. When I get my students assigned seats, I go, oh, bummer. But I can see how it does help students feel like they have a specific place in my room, like they own that little piece of space in my classroom, and they feel valued. If we look at a chair, oh, that's Johnny's chair. Don't get Johnny's chair. Is Johnny here today? Oh, where's Johnny? All I have to do is look at that one place for them. And I completely understand now how it can help students feel valued and feel like they have a place in my room. Check in and check out. I've seen a lot of these floating around here lately, especially in the virtual classrooms. So some of them are mental and emotional check-ins. The emoji ones are really cool. The Bitmoji ones are pretty cool. And basically, you just have a student kind of mark with a sticker or a marker or whatever you have, how they're feeling when they come in. And that can tell you a lot about the mental and emotional state of each student in your class. And even more importantly, especially for health ed, is a check out where they can do the same. We talk a lot about sensitive topics, don't we? Or even controversial topics. And so sometimes we might talk about something in our class that can negatively affect a child or a kid. So on the way out, if Claire puts her sticker and she's feeling frustrated or anxious, then I know to catch up with Claire and to have a further discussion, or to ask her to stay behind so that we can have a discussion about why she was feeling that way, especially if she came into the room happy and she left feeling anxious or scared. So that would be a good conversational piece. Posting of pictures in the classroom. I've done this one before and it is pretty cool. I didn't necessarily put pictures on the walls, but I did on my computer screensaver. I had pictures of each class, and it was kind of neat. They like finding themselves. And it does help students feel valued and welcome, and helps them feel more safe in your classroom. So going along with what I said just a second ago about us talking about topics that could be very sensitive or controversial, we need to give trigger warnings, especially if we're talking about a topic where a student may have experienced trauma within that topic. We need to say, hey, we're going to talk about sexual violence today. And just, not necessarily one-on-one, but just as a general disclaimer, we're going to talk about sexual violence today. So I understand that can be very sensitive for some of you. And sometimes, even having a student do a different assignment. I know one time we were doing, early in my career, we were talking about non-communicable diseases. And of course, I wanted them to find their family history of those. And I had a student who was adopted, and she got pretty upset. I don't live with my biological family, but her concerns were very valid and very natural. So I altered that assignment for her, and I said, I encouraged her to, because that's very valuable information for her own health. But I said, I completely understand that you don't have any contact with your biological family. And if that's the case, for this assignment, you can use your adoptive family's information if you want to. So I gave her an out. I gave her a choice. She could dig a little bit deeper if she wanted to, because that could be very valuable information for her. But I also gave her a way out so that she wasn't re-traumatized. So that's the type of things that we want to do, especially in health education, when it comes to triggers and re-traumatization. Okay, how can we help students feel connected? And connectedness, for the sake of this presentation, means having relationships with others who can understand and support you. So as teachers, how can we help our students come into our classroom with knowing that we support them? Even if we don't understand, we support them enough where we will ask the questions and have the conversation so that we can understand where they're coming from. That's what we want to talk about now. So I found this quote, and I think it came from the Fostering Resilient Learners book. If we can provide consistency, positivity, and integrity in our interactions with students, we'll establish a relationship that is safe enough for them. If you're like me, and especially having them in grades 6 through 9, there are some students that you just click with. I mean, they come by, they say hi, even when they leave your class. They send you messages. They still bring you teacher appreciation gifts. They still drop by the gym when you're teaching PE. Some students we develop those deep connections with, right? Well, what if, what if they don't have to be that deep of connections in order to help students heal from trauma? And that's the case. It doesn't always have to be a deep, long-lasting connection. Okay, if we are consistent and positive and we speak with integrity to those students, we will establish a relationship that is safe enough to help them to start heal from trauma. So some ways that are suggested that we can do this is to welcome students by name. It takes 7 seconds, they say. Make eye contact with every student every day. So the way I do these two things is I'll stand at my door, and before COVID, I'll look them in the eye, give them a firm handshake. I think it's important that our students learn how to shake hands firmly, and I've been doing that with one group ever since they were in 6th grade. Now here lately, and when we go back to school, I won't shake hands with them, but I can make eye contact with them and give them a smile. But if I have a mask on, they're not going to be able to see my smile. So we'll have to work out something else where I make it more positive. Maybe say something more positive. But making eye contact with every student every day and greeting them by name, it really does help them feel seen. When I look at a student in the eyes, there's a lot that can tell us. Now, we have to be careful not to assume, right? But when you communicate with students and you're able to look at them, and see facial expression, see body language, see their eyes, it can tell you a lot more about their emotional state. And it can also make them feel very welcome in your classroom and have a start of a really good connection. Take a few minutes of class to talk about something other than school. You can do this one virtually, even if you have to. And you can also, I suppose, even greet students by name if we're on virtual when school starts. But talk about something other than school. Give students a chance to talk to each other, especially if we're on virtual. And they can do that. It'll be hard to do, but maybe put them in breakout rooms or something and let them connect with each other, because connecting with each other is super important, just like connecting with us is as well. Get to know your students. There's some activities on Curiously Health Ed that will help you get to know your students. The activity we just did a minute ago can help you learn a lot more about your students. The Would You Rather activity. You can ask some pretty funny questions. Kids get into it, it's fun. And if you're remote teaching, post videos of yourself or host meetings when remotely teaching, because the more that students can see your face and hear your voice, the better connection you'll have with them. The connection part was really hard for me in March when I had to teach over the internet. It was challenging. We have a lot of students here in our county who don't have internet. So connecting with those students was even harder. But ways that we did that was we still delivered food to them, to their houses. We called them as often as we could. We still try to connect with them as many ways as possible. And you might have to try several different ways before you finally find that one way that works. But for those students who don't have internet, and even the students who do have internet but are maybe working on a program this fall, they're still going to need some personal interaction and some personal connection. So I invite you to reach out to those students and still have that positive connection, even if you're not seeing them sitting in front of you in your classroom every day. Calling or sending positive notes home is a good way for students to feel connected. Use a positive discipline approach. So instead, of course, we talked about this a minute ago, instead of asking what happened to you when a student misbehaves in your classroom, excuse me. Instead of asking what is wrong with you when a misbehavior occurs in your classroom, ask what happened to you to make you feel like you needed to do that. And then, of course, if discipline just goes wrong, if it just goes haywire, like sometimes it will, take the time the next day or whenever you can connect with that child to repair that connection. Sometimes we have to ask for grace, don't we? Sometimes we are just impatient and we fly off the handle. We say something that we don't mean to say, and we have to ask for grace from that student. We have to ask forgiveness from that student. And repairing that relationship in and of itself, that act can teach a student a lot about building healthy relationships. How do we help students feel hopeful? Okay, and hope is defined as the expectation that everything will work out and the feeling that things will be all right. For a lot of our students where I teach, that feeling isn't there. And I expect that when we return after the pandemic, students are going to be fearful and that feeling might not be there as well. So how then do we instill hope in students? First of all, focus on strengths. It's important with our discipline procedures, especially, that we find the need behind the behavior and that we empower students with the skills to healthfully meet that need. And like I said earlier, it could be a physical need that we can meet easily with water or with food, or it might be much deeper where we need to teach them a skill and how to get that need met in a better way, in a healthier way. We can use goal setting to help to teach them how to look forward to the future and to teach them to foresee challenges or how to overcome challenges in order to attain their goals. We can give them choice. I love to do this. There's some really cool activities on Curiously Health Ed that can help you do this. I like to give students choice in assignments, whether it be, choice in instructional strategies, like how I teach it. I like to give them choice and input. I like to give them choice when it comes to topics to do an assignment. So if I'm teaching a skill, for example, I might give them a choice in the content that they choose to apply that skill to. I like to give them choice on product, on how they will do an assignment and what they will actually turn in, using the same rubric that everybody else is using, but they might do a different product. So choice is big in my classroom. I also like to use a voice. I like to give students a voice whenever I possibly can. So when we come up with our class norms or our classroom expectations, I give them input. I like to get input from them about physical activities that we do in PE. Because I realize some of them are more on the fitness side, some of them like to do sports. So I let them choose a lot and voice what they like to do. I also do a lot of Google Forms, Poll Everywheres, different types of surveys to gather data from them and what they want to learn about and what they want to do in the class. And then I try to incorporate that as much as I can when developing my skills-based units. You can empower students with social emotional learning skill practice in order to help them feel hopeful. So we know from research that SEL can support students who are victims of trauma, can provide kids with safe spaces and environments, and it can teach kids to connect their actions to their thoughts and their feelings. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about SEL because that's an entirely different presentation on its own. But I do invite you to learn more about social emotional learning and the ways that it can help the way it can help trauma students. So CASEL, if you're not familiar with CASEL, I invite you to become familiar with them. They're the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning. And they define social emotional learning as a process through which children and adults acquire and effectively learn how to apply knowledge attitudes and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions. It also helps them set positive goals, show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and of course, make decisions responsibly. So as you can see, there's a lot of correlation between health education and social and emotional learning. Okay, with the help of Mary Connolly, this is based totally on her work. She's amazing. You need to, if you don't know her, you need to get to know her. She's an amazing human being. She has connected the national health education skills to the CASEL competencies. And I also believe that Shape America, as we speak, is currently working on a crosswalk document between the CASEL competencies and the NHES skills as well. So you can see how the skills in the National Health Education Standards directly align with the CASEL competencies. So there's a lot of correlation there. And so it should be pretty simple for us and important for us to incorporate social and emotional learning into health education, especially if we teach the skills that are found in the National Health Education Standards. So some final thoughts, lots of them, right? But I just want to share a few. A trauma-informed mindset works best when it's school-wide. So not only your teachers and administrators, but also including bus drivers, janitors, aides, secretaries, everybody across the board, monitors, anyone who comes into contact with students can help them tremendously if we look on our jobs through a trauma-informed mindset or through a trauma-informed lens. Just taking into consideration where the child is coming from, what their home life is like, what stresses or trauma that they've been through, and go from there and try to help them through that. Please know that we're not always going to know which students have experienced or are experiencing trauma. But we do know that there are students in our classrooms who have experienced trauma or who are experiencing trauma based on research. We know that it's a lot more prevalent than we thought. And we know that health education provides a unique setting where the worlds of trauma and healing can intersect. So I really hope that you have learned how to help students heal in health class. If you have any questions or you would like to connect with me in any way, here's some connecting information. There's my school address and my phone number. If you click on the icon, it'll connect you to my Twitter page. If you click on Curiously Health Ed icon, it'll connect you to my website. And then of course, if you click on the email icon, then it will connect you to my email address. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have learned something. I hope you have learned about how to help your students feel safe, connected, and hopeful. And I look forward to meeting you in person one day. Thank you. God bless.